At rallies across the nation, gay rights advocates celebrated their legal victory, a ruling so broad it surprised even many of them. The court ruled in favor of 2 Texas men who challenged a state law that made homosexual conduct a crime.
We're glad not only that this ruling lets us get on with our lives, but that it opens the door for gay people all across the country to be treated equally.
Citing past rulings that said state laws banning contraceptives interfered with the right to privacy, a 5-member majority said people have a similar right, a liberty interest, to choose gay relationships without being punished as criminals. In his dissent, Justice Antonin Scalia said the decision decrees the end of all legislation based on morals and leaves on, quote, pretty shaky ground state laws against gay marriage. Conservative groups said the court was responding to gay political activism.
The court's decision is not rooted in the text of the Constitution, in the court's own previous decisions, or in the history or traditions of our country.
Gay rights groups were jubilant over today's sweeping decision.
No longer are we entitled to constitutional rights in the abstract. This is constitutional rights in our real lives.
It's a great day for all Americans because the court has now recognized that all Americans are shielded from government intrusion into the bedroom and from their choices of sexual partners, sexual intimacy.
Today's ruling is a victory for Gary Chalmers and Richard Linnell, for Gloria Bailey and Linda Davies, and for 5 other gay couples in Massachusetts who sued the state when they were refused marriage licenses.
Now, finally, these couples who've been together years, if not decades, will finally have the chance to be treated equally and fairly by their government and have the right to join in civil marriage.
Today's decision comes from the 7-member Supreme Court of Massachusetts, all but one appointed by Republican governors. By a vote of 4 to 3, the court said denying marriage licenses to same-sex couples creates second-class citizens and violates the state constitution and is based on the same kind of prejudice that once made interracial marriage illegal. The ruling stopped short of ordering the state to immediately grant marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Instead, it gave the state legislature 6 months to take, quote, such action as it may deem appropriate. That might leave the door open to something less than gay marriage, like Vermont-style civil unions, but most legal scholars say that wouldn't go far enough to survive court challenge. Opponents of gay marriage today said the court ruling went too far.
I think it flies in the face of what we know in Massachusetts as marriage and have demonstrated since our founding.
And Mitt Romney, the state's Republican governor, called for action to undo the basis of today's ruling.
Marriage is an institution between a man and a woman. I will support an amendment to the Massachusetts Constitution to make that expressly clear.
Some opponents of gay marriage say the federal courts could get involved if gay couples married in Massachusetts seek legal recognition elsewhere.
When the full faith and credit clause of the Constitution's put in play, when another state is being asked to recognize a same-sex marriage for Massachusetts, that issue could end up at the U.S. Supreme Court.
We work hard, we do everything that other couples do, and yet we're denied this right.
Polls consistently show that despite support for civil rights advancements for gays, the American majority opposes gay marriage. Today's Pew Research Institute poll, 59% oppose gay marriage, and 55% believe homosexual sex is a sin.
Gay marriage is where the American public is now drawing the line.
Those numbers even more negative among the religious, where 80% believe that gay marriage is wrong. Evangelicals now planning to make it the central issue of the presidential campaign. Republicans consider gay marriage an opportunistic issue in the presidential campaign because George Bush supporters are virtually united in their opposition, while Democrats are split. From liberals like Dennis Kucinich, who support gay marriage.
As a matter of simple justice, it's the right thing to do.
To moderates like Richard Gephardt, who stopped short of backing gay marriage.
I think civil unions is a realizable goal.
In fact, among the Democratic presidential candidates, only Kucinich, Carol Moseley Braun, and Al Sharpton outright favor gay marriage. Frontrunners straddle the issue. Howard Dean, Gephardt, and John Kerry are against gay marriage, but support civil unions. And even more careful, Wesley Clark, Joe Lieberman, and John Edwards, who say the federal government should stay out of it.
Activist courts have left the people with one recourse. If we are to prevent the meaning of marriage from being changed forever, our nation must enact a constitutional amendment to protect marriage in America. Today I call upon the Congress to promptly pass and to send to the states for ratification an amendment to our Constitution defining and protecting marriage as a union of a man and woman as husband and wife.
President Bush's call for a constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriages was met with quick protests in California. Hundreds turned out to protest in West Hollywood and in other areas. A new Los Angeles Times poll shows Californians evenly divided on a constitutional amendment banning gay marriages.
Just after midnight, thousands celebrated what was once just a dream. Paul McGrath and Lorenzo Claudio were among those who made history, getting one of the first legal marriage licenses for same-sex couples in Massachusetts.
We've been together 13 years, but it feels like a new beginning.
By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you
legally married.
By mid-morning, couples previously denied the opportunity, now able to say, I do. But the happiness was not embraced by everyone.
This is the voice of evil.
Across the country, 38 states have already passed laws banning same-sex marriage. 6 other states will vote on the issue this year. It means the rights that come with marriage, such as making medical decisions for each other and being able to adopt children, would not apply outside of Massachusetts for gay couples whose marriages are recognized here.
If the couple wants to get a divorce.
Sanford Katz, an expert in family law.
If we're going to have a unified country, all states really should recognize other states' decisions, decrees, and laws. Otherwise, we'll have a divided country.
Today's Massachusetts action is further limited because the marriages are not recognized by the federal government. So such things as Medicare and Social Security benefits are still denied to same-sex couples.
Crowds chanted today in the streets of Los Angeles as thousands did last night, angry at the success of Proposition 8. It amends the state constitution to ban same-sex marriage, allowed since the spring when the state Supreme Court overturned laws against it. In California, Barack Obama won 61% of the vote, and it appears many of his supporters also voted for Prop 8, which passed with 52%. The big turnout of black voters helped push it over the top. 70% supported it. Hispanic and Latino voters did too, though not by as much. Some conservative groups actually called it more important than the election for president. They feared a win for gay marriage in California would fuel a nationwide trend.
As people got married in California, they would go back to their own states and challenge their state amendments, or they would challenge their state laws, or any number of issues.
Though gay rights groups lost similar marriage votes Tuesday in Arizona and Florida, and a vote on adoption in Arkansas, they take some heart from the close margin in California. 8 years ago, on a similar proposition, just 39% supported gay marriage.
I think this is absolutely in line with what I would call the national trend and the historical trend, and that trend is as people get to know gay people better and begin to get more comfortable, they decide that it really is unfair to exclude people from marriage.
Equal rights! Fight for the right thing! Equal rights! 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 Gay, straight, black or white, marriage is a civil right. Gay, straight, black or white, marriage is a civil right.
The anger spilled out onto city streets all weekend long, all across California. Gay rights activists protesting the passage of Proposition 8, which bans gay marriage in California.
I had never felt such a sense of being less of a person.
Tens of thousands of protesters from Los Angeles to San Diego, San Francisco to Huntington Beach. Prop 8 had stirred high emotion from the start. The vote exposed a religious and racial divide. Blacks and Hispanics, especially regular churchgoers, were strongly behind a ban on gay marriage.
We're upset, we're depressed.
Civil rights groups are now taking their case to the California Supreme Court.
The majority should not be voting on fundamental rights, and what happened on Tuesday is the first time that has happened in this nation.
But Prop 8 organizers say they'll now work to prevent other states from recognizing gay marriage. A growing culture war with more battles to come.
You know, as a nation, we've come far on the journey towards a more perfect union. And today we've taken another step forward. This afternoon I signed into law the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act.
This is, of course, an historic decision that the federal court in San Francisco has made, striking down Proposition 8. The judge was very vigorous and very definitive in ruling that Proposition 8 violated the federal Constitution. And that means that the fundamental right of marriage is available on the same terms to same-sex couples as it is to heterosexual couples. And since the court has said that same-sex couples have this fundamental right, then why delay for a year or two while it goes through the appellate courts? Let this right be exercised fully and appropriately. And I would say that as people see same-sex marriages and the families, I think there will be more acceptance going forward, because people do see this fits into the social fabric, not only with no harm, but with a lot of positive benefits.
Gay marriage advocates welcome the news that same-sex weddings will soon resume again in California. But the 6-day delay was a disappointment for some couples who had hoped the judge might allow marriage immediately. Longtime partners Floyd and Tim spent Thursday at City Hall waiting for a marriage license, only to find out they'll have to wait a little longer.
We've been here for 2 hours this morning, and we've watched so many straight people walk in and get married in front of us. It's so in your face that, no, once again, no, you can't.
At least not yet. In a decision released Thursday, Judge Vaughn Walker announced that a stay on gay marriage will be lifted, but not until next Wednesday.
The reason the judge delayed implementing his own decision 6 days was he felt it was fundamentally fair to give the opponents of same-sex marriage a chance to go to the Court of Appeals and ask them to extend the stay.
Last week, Judge Walker overturned Proposition 8, the 2008 ballot initiative banning gay marriage, calling it unconstitutional, upsetting many who voted for Proposition 8.
It's voting a farce. If one man can overturn the votes of the people.
Now, opponents of gay marriage are vowing to push the case all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, legal experts say it's unlikely that opponents of gay marriage will be successful in extending the stay in the next 6 days, but there are several other issues they can take to the Supreme Court to try to keep gay marriage from continuing in this state.
A day of change that began with deep convictions.
If you care about national security, if you care about our military readiness, then you will repeal this corrosive policy.
Does anybody look at those graves and say, move this one? Because we just found out that soldier who died in battle was gay.
And strong feelings among Republicans.
The Army, the Air Force, particularly the Marine Corps, have cautioned us not to do this now this way.
John McCain led opposition to ending the ban, saying that it would be a dangerous distraction during 2 wars.
And there'll be high fives all over the liberal bastions of America, and we'll see the talk shows tomorrow, a bunch of people talking about how great it is. Most of them never have served in the military.
The 17-year-old policy known as Don't Ask, Don't Tell forbids gays and lesbians from serving openly in the military. About 14,000 men and women have been expelled.
No one should be turned away because of who they are.
With momentum to change the law, fueled by public opinion and support from top military brass, the political will shifted. After many past failed votes, today one final shot.
The yeas are 65, the nays 31.
For supporters, relief, victory, and a surprise. 8 Republicans, more than expected, joined Democrats to end Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Maine Republican Susan Collins led the fight for repeal and won more GOP support.
17 years ago, it was a Democratic president who signed into law Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So I think our society is changing.
A thrilled Senator Joe Lieberman called it the best day in his Senate career.
We're still able to come together in a bipartisan way to right a wrong and do something that's in the best interest of our country.
And there is still one more step that could take several months for this to really be done. This law today says that the President, the Secretary of Defense, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs must certify that the military has taken all the steps internally to be ready to implement this change.
So this morning, I am proud to sign a law that will bring an end to Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It is a law This law I'm about to sign will strengthen our national security and uphold the ideals that our fighting men and women risk their lives to defend. No longer will our country be denied the service of thousands of patriotic Americans who were forced to leave the military, regardless of their skills, no matter their bravery or their zeal, no matter their years of exemplary performance, because they happen to be gay. No longer will tens of thousands of Americans in uniform be asked to live a lie or look over their shoulder in order to serve the country that they love.
Once again, demonstrators on both sides of the same-sex marriage issue lined up in the hallways outside the Senate chamber trying to influence lawmakers. Even the committed are getting tired of this. Not nearly as much yelling, not nearly as loud. Singing was also just sporadic. We are seeing many of the same faces among the demonstrators. UAlbany student Jeff Corey says he's been here 5 days.
Marriage used to be one man and many women, and we decided that was wrong. Let's make it just 2 people. Then we decided, you know what, maybe 2 different religions should be allowed to marry. And then we decided, you know what, maybe 2 different races should be allowed to marry. So we're just, you know, they say we can't redefine marriage. We've redefined marriage many times over the years.
Sabrina Ben of Albany is on day 3 advocating against the same-sex marriage bill.
You want to be gay, fine, but do not mess with the marriage tradition. Do not touch the marriage tradition.
It is very wrong to touch the marriage. This is real marriage from a real man, and a real woman made. Okay. Do not want that. Go to another state and do that. Do not start it here. We got enough confusion as it is.
Full equality! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Full equality! When do we want it? Now! Hey Obama, don't hate on my two mamas! Hey Obama, don't hate on my two mamas! Obama, Obama, let mama marry mama!
Ever since I entered into public life, ever since I have a memory about what my mother taught me and my grandparents taught me, I believe that discriminating against people was wrong. I had no choice. I was born that way. In Hawaii, and I believed that discrimination because of somebody's sexual orientation or gender identity ran counter to who we are as a people. And it's a violation of the basic tenets on which this nation was founded. I believe that gay couples deserve the same legal rights as every other couple in this country.
Same-sex marriage is now legal in the state of New York. Last night, the governor signed the marriage equality bill, making New York the largest state to support gay marriage. WNBC's Katie Tur is live in Albany with more for us this morning. Katie, good morning.
Good morning, Thomas. It's been a long week here in Albany. So long, in fact, that some lawmakers were beginning to run out of clean clothes. But late last night, Governor Andrew Cuomo signed the Marriage Equality Act into law at 11:55. The deciding votes came at the last minute from two Republican state senators who, in the end, were appeased by strengthened language protecting religious institutions from discrimination lawsuits if they refuse to marry same-sex couples. The final vote brought cheers and songs from supporters, while some detractors knelt down to pray. In 30 days, marriage licenses will begin to be handed out here in New York to same-sex couples. Thomas?
It's a big development with Pride Weekend this weekend in New York City. WNBC's Katie Tur, thank you.
Governor, what does this mean to see this done?
Oh, I think this is history in the making, and I'm very proud of New York and the statement that New York has made to the nation today.
You recognize that the long sweep of history, the arc of history, bends towards equality and freedom, and I am grateful to everyone tonight, especially those who felt that they had to take a tough vote. Obviously for us it was an easy vote.
We reached a new level of social justice this evening. Marriage equality. I said to the legislators, you look at the first word, marriage. It's really about the second word, equality. It's really about New Yorkers, our brothers and sisters, looking at us and saying, we want equality. We want equality in society, equality in our relationships, equality in our love, equality in our families. We want full recognition. Marriage equality. And we did it today. And that legislature worked together, and they responded to their better angels. They responded to their hopes, not their fears.
Gay pride parades around the country turned into victory laps, especially right here in New York City on Sunday, where revelers celebrated New York becoming the 6th and largest state to legalize same-sex marriage. Gay and lesbian couples spoke about finally realizing their decades-long dream of walking down the aisle. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was cheered at the celebrations and called for nationwide marriage equality.
Let me acknowledge that this is an historic day for the Pentagon and for the nation. As of 12:01 a.m. This morning, we have the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, pursuant to the law that was passed by the Congress last December. Thanks to this change, I believe we move closer to achieving the goal at the foundation of the values that America is all about. Equality, equal opportunity, and dignity for all Americans.
Good evening, Brian. This repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which prohibited gays from openly serving in the U.S. military, is nothing short of historic. It's estimated that as many as 65,000 gays and lesbians actively serve in the U.S. military, including on the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan. But today, for the first time ever, they no longer have to live a lie. At the Pentagon, Joint Chiefs Chairman Mike Mullen said for him, repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell is all about integrity.
It was fundamentally against everything we stand for as an institution to force people to lie about who they are just to wear a uniform.
This is a dramatic. In 1993, the new President Bill Clinton wanted to lift the ban against gays in the military altogether. But faced with stiff opposition from both Congress and the Pentagon, he was forced to accept Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Today's repeal
on Capitol Hill today, lawmakers say the repeal marks an end to 18 years of official discrimination and the beginning of a new era.
When gay and lesbian service members can serve their country openly, without living in constant fear of being outed and kicked out of the military.
And Marine Captain Sarah Pizzat was free today to tell the whole world the truth.
I'm 31 years old. I'm a woman. I'm a United States Marine. And I'm a lesbian.
Were you living a lie?
Absolutely. All of us were living a lie.
But Air Force Staff Sergeant Jonathan Mills was among many who fought back. He's been executive editor of an online magazine, Outsir, working anonymously behind the scenes for repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
To be able to see something that has been so wrong, a policy that has ruined so many lives, to be overturned, I feel very proud of this, what I feel is a moral accomplishment in our country.
At the stroke of midnight, the moment Don't Ask, Don't Tell was officially dead, Navy Lieutenant Gary Ross openly married his partner in Vermont. Ironically, under existing federal law, the military still cannot recognize the marriage.
Brian, this ruling is a decisive win for advocates of same-sex marriage, but the way it's worded could make it less likely the Supreme Court would use this case to decide the issue of gay marriage nationwide. Supporters of same-sex marriage cheered today's decision by a panel of 3 federal judges, declaring that Proposition 8, passed by California voters in 2008 to ban gay marriage, is unconstitutional. The court said because California's separate domestic partnership law already gave same-sex couples the same legal rights that married couples have, all Proposition 8 did was take away from gay couples the legal right to get marriage licenses. They could still adopt, raise children, get spousal benefits, all the privileges of marriage, just not the term. Prop 8, the court said today, serves no purpose, has no effect other than to lessen the status and human dignity of gays and lesbians. The ruling said the U.S. Constitution does not permit that kind of discrimination.
What the court did today affirms that you cannot single out one group of people and deny them the dignity and respect which all citizens deserve.
The decision relies heavily on what happened in California, where the right of same-sex marriage was granted starting in 2008, then taken away by Prop 8. The immediate effect of the ruling applies only in that state. The court explicitly said it was not deciding the larger question of whether the Constitution allows any state to ban gay marriage. Backers of Proposition 8 say they'll appeal. They say they want to get the issue before the Supreme Court.
Some cases are so big that the magnitude of the issues says to the Supreme Court it would be good to take this case and resolve this up front rather than allow the issue to percolate for a long period of time.
While the Prop 8 backers decide their next move, the ban on gay marriage in California remains in effect. If this case does come here, and if the justices decide to take it up, they probably wouldn't hear it until next year, Brian.
This court has struck down the Federal Defense of Marriage Act. Pete, what can you tell us?
The Supreme Court has just struck down the Federal Defense of Marriage Act. This was the law passed by Congress in 1996, signed by President Clinton, that prevented the federal government from recognizing the validity of same-sex marriages in the states where they're legal. It's a 5-4 decision written by Justice Anthony Kennedy. And the interesting thing here is that the court has said that DOMA is unconstitutional as a matter of equal protection, meaning that it's discriminatory. Now, the importance of that is if the Supreme Court had struck it down on a narrower basis by saying, for example, that the federal government doesn't have the power to determine what a marriage is, that's a matter for the states, that would have been a very narrow ruling. This is a very broad ruling. If the Supreme Court here is saying that the federal government can't make distinctions between same-sex and opposite-sex couples in terms of what marriages the federal government will recognize, then this is an opinion that can be used by proponents of same-sex marriage to attack laws in other states. So it's a significant ruling from the Supreme Court. We're still waiting for the decision on California's Proposition 8. But I would say, based on the size of this ruling and the size of the dissent, that it's going to take the justices a long time to read their opinions from the bench.
Right.
I would guess that the dissenters will read their dissents as well. So we've got some period of time to wait here before we get the other decision. But, okay, the Supreme Court has decided that it cannot take up the challenge to California's Proposition 8. It's another 5-4 vote. What this means is that same-sex marriage is now once again legal in the state of California. It's probably the same lineup, I'm assuming, from the dissenters that in the DOMA case. And this court may well have been relieved at that fact that it has a way of disposing of this case without having to jump off that cliff and tell the rest of the country they have to allow same-sex marriage. So just to be clear, they're not doing that. All they're saying is that this case was not properly before them. It's good for a ticket good for one ride only in California, where same-sex marriage will very quickly resume.
Equal justice under the law. Those are the words inscribed at the wall of the Supreme Court, which, by the way, I can see from my office. This is the value and the ideal upheld by the Supreme Court today. From the start, many of us have believed that Section 3 of the Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutional. In fact, we believe the whole bill is unconstitutional. Today, the Supreme Court agreed, and justice was done for thousands of LGBT families nationwide. Just think of what it means to them. From the start, many of us believed that Prop 8 had no place in the state of California. Today, the Supreme Court agreed, and justice will be done for loving LGBT couples across my home state. Indeed, on this day, nearly 44 years to the day after the Stonewall riots turned the attention of the nation into the challenge against discrimination against LGBT Americans, the Supreme Court bent the arc of history once again toward justice.
Gay rights supporters crowded outside the court cheering the historic decisions. First, a ruling striking down a law passed by Congress in 1996, the Defense of Marriage Act, known as DOMA.
DOMA is dead!
That law blocked the federal government from recognizing same-sex marriages in the states that allow them, depriving those couples of more than 1,000 federal benefits that other married couples have. In a 5-4 ruling written by Justice Anthony Kennedy, the court said DOMA serves no legitimate government purpose, and he said it demeans those who are in a lawful same-sex marriage, declaring their marriages less worthy and humiliating tens of thousands of children raised by same-sex couples. Victory for Edie Windsor of New York, socked with a $363,000 tax bill when her spouse died, leaving her the estate. DOMA blocked the IRS from considering the married and exempt from estate taxes.
We won everything we asked and hoped for. Wow. I'm honored and humbled and overjoyed to be here today.
In the second 5-4 decision, this time by Chief Justice Roberts, the court tossed out an appeal involving California's Proposition 8, passed by voters in 2008. It had stopped same-sex marriages in the state. The court said the people who put Prop 8 on the ballot had no legal authority to appeal after a lower court struck it down as unconstitutional. It's not enough, wrote the Chief Justice, to have a keen interest in the case to file an appeal. Instead, someone must have suffered a concrete injury, he said, and the Prop 8 supporters didn't have it. For the two California couples who challenged the law, that's the answer they wanted.
Now we will be married and we will be equal to every other family in California.
So today is a good day. It's the day I finally get to look at the man that I love and finally say, will you please marry me?
A short time later, their interview on MSNBC was interrupted by a call from the president on Air Force One.
We thank you so much for your support.
Opponents of same-sex marriage took some comfort in the rulings.
I am pleased that the court did not create out of thin air a constitutional right to same-sex marriage, and this debate will go on.
But with a boost to one side, says Tom Goldstein of SCOTUS blog.
Today's rulings don't give anyone a legal right to same-sex marriage, but they give it a moral underpinning, with a majority of the Supreme Court having really said very forcefully that these relationships deserve equal treatment under the law.
There was a big announcement this morning, a first of its kind. A male athlete, an active player in a major American sports league, has come out as gay. His name is Jason Collins. He's a veteran in the NBA. His declaration has been met with widespread praise from across the sports world and beyond, including a phone call from the President of the United States pledging his support. Our report tonight from NBC's Mike Taibbi.
There have been tens of thousands of people before him. He is the first one to come out while playing and say, I'm gay.
For a pro athlete, it's a big step.
Used to be a big thing, but now it's not.
It's about time.
By all accounts, Collins is universally well liked, and that helps. But it also helps that as he was pointing toward this day, the country was changing.
People go, look, the sky isn't falling, in the same way that states are toppling in our gay marriage battle.
Now, even our most macho team sports offer another lesson.
It's good that he's coming out and he's transparent about it because it breaks the ice.
I got gay friends, gay people who work for me, and so it's not like anything out of the norm. Obviously, I think he's one of the first active. No, is he still active? He is active. Probably one of the first active players to come out. So he should. There's a lot of stigmas out there. It's really good that people release stigmas, no matter what the stigma is. It's good.
I think it's great that Jason's, strong enough to come out. I think he's, going to make a huge impact on a lot of people. I think most importantly, a lot of young people, not only to open their minds, but to also feel free to come out themselves. And, I couldn't think of something that would be, how difficult that would be for somebody to hold something like that in for so long, but also if you're a young person and all the confusion that comes with that as well. So I think it's fantastic that he's taking such a positive and influential role as a spokesperson in many respects, regardless of whether he totally wants to do that or not. I mean, by doing so, he's, I think, really set a great message for society and for our culture.
Well, I mean, I'm be honest, I'm proud of him. I'm proud that he's able to feel comfortable in his own skin and be who he is and be comfortable enough to come out, and now I'm pretty sure he feels free and he feels like he can live a little bit. And that's just, the world is different now. This is what the world is today, and I'm happy that he had the courage to do that, man.
I played with Jason, 2 years in Atlanta, and one of the coolest teammates. He was always a professional. He was actually one of the reasons why we beat Orlando my second year there, because we didn't have to double team. You know, he did a good job on Dwight straight up, and we took away their shooters. But, you know, I think he's very courageous, very proud of him.
And while as a teammate, were there any talks about anything like that?
No, not at all. It was always basketball. It was always, you know, family stuff. It was never anything personal. His personal life is his personal life, just like we all have our own as well.
Also from the sports world now to the big announcement today by a college football player and NFL prospect that made a lot of news across the U.S. Michael Sam is a defensive end at the University of Missouri, SEC Defensive Player of the Year, in fact. He's 6'2", 255, an All-American, thought to be a top NFL recruit. Last night, he came out publicly, revealed that he is gay. This means he could become the first openly gay player in NFL history. There's been a lot of reaction, both inside and outside the lines, to this announcement. We get our report tonight from our national correspondent, Kate Snow.
Sam's career started here in Southeast Texas. He grew up and played at Hitchcock High School, where he graduated in 2009.
At the University of Missouri today, where Sam was an All-American defensive end, his name written on the snowy field.
Michael Sam was projected as a 3rd or 4th round pick, but definitely on the board. And today, executives will say anonymously that his stock has dropped. He may not even be drafted.
Using the word distraction as code for, I'm not comfortable with a gay person on my team, but I know I can't go out and say that, so I'm going to use the word distraction instead.
Kluwe does say he sees more open-mindedness among some younger players. In Texas today, Sam's aunt talked about all he's overcome in his life. 3 of his 7 siblings died young. 2 brothers are in prison.
Michael has gone through a lot of adversities in his life, and yet he still came out on top.
If this guy can help your football team, he deserves to be on the roster. This is a huge referendum on football. I mean, Michael Sam will be under great scrutiny, but so will football.
As long as he get out on the football field and play football, ain't no telling what he's trying to do when he get home. It ain't nobody's business.
You know, we're there to play football. You know, we're not there to judge anyone off of what they do in their personal life. You know, so as long as he's a good, teammate, as far as on the field and off the field, then, what he does, outside of, the facility, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think so. As long as he makes plays and produces and, just keeps the locker room camaraderie good, and everything should be fine. I don't think his sexuality would have anything to do with that. So, I mean, NFL's a production business, so as long as he produces,